again, everyone. Kata Kosman, publisher of Madison's Lumber Reporter. And now I'm going to talk about the timber supply, and this applies to US and Canada, but let's talk about the US. What is going on with the feedstock, the logs that the sawmills need in order to manufacture the wood that is going into all of the new housing construction and new home building that happens year over year in the US. So just really quick about the lumber. Until about the 2000s, when Canada was continually having very severe softwood lumber duty imposed by the US, until then, approximately 85% of all lumber manufactured in Canada went into the US. Now, over this past 25 years, Canada has diversified, and specifically to Asia, but also to other markets, and that figure is now between 60 and 65%. If you look at it the other way, at any given time, approximately 30-35% of all wood in the US comes from Canada. So there is not enough manufacturing in the US to serve the US home building demand and other uses for wood. Both Canada and US do have ample timber outside of the merchantable timber basket, okay? So all trees are not equal. Logs have grade just like lumber has grade, okay? So the existing system is a merchantable timber supply basket of an area that has a managed timber land. In the US, it will be privately owned timberland, and in Canada, it will be in the public land, but designated as timber supply in both countries, as opposed to parkland, recreational land, First Nations, urban areas, whatever. So unmanaged timber, not utilized forest, which both in Canada and US has been now 30 years. There's a lot of trees, but they do not meet the grade. It doesn't mean that they can go, and where's the mill? Like in British Columbia, the calculation is if a mill needs to go more than 200 kilometers for their timber, it is not economic to make lumber, so 100 miles. So that's why the sawmills across the world have an adjacent timber supply. And they might rotate, like it might be a large area that they rotate through. Over in Canada, in British Columbia, every 5 years, you go through your cut, regenerate. Something might get hit by fire or pest, something might happen. But the distant forest, the park, the steep hillside, the hardwoods, the understory, where there's no road, there's lots of trees, but you can't make lumber out of it, okay? So timber, a forest, gets harvested, and that becomes a log. So logs have grade. The number 2 saw log makes the number 2 and better lumber, which is the construction framing lumber. Chip and saw log might be chipped to make pulp, or it might be sawn to make, for example, number 3 utility grade, which goes into pallets and crating, packaging material, and other uses. Or number 4 economy, railway ties, furring strips, things like that, okay? So there is the number 2 saw log, which makes construction framing lumber, chip and saw, pulp logs, which just get ground up to make pulp or pellets, peeler logs, which make veneers. That's manufactured in a different way. The data that Madison's tracks and the wood that goes into building a home is softwood. A forest will be a mix of softwood and hardwood, like a natural forest, an unmanaged forest. There will be what they call garbage trees, okay? Aspen, balsam. I'm not saying that these trees are garbage. I'm saying if you are going after the number 2 saw log to make lumber, all these other trees are in your way. It's a mixed species harvest. but in general, across the world, timber harvesting is done by huge, huge equipment that needs a road to get into the forest, range of equipment one after the other, clearing out, collecting the stems that are merchantable to go further into the processing, to be transported into the mill, which must be within 100 miles. So the forest industry, the sawmilling industry in Canada and the US has been asking federal and state timber, if it's a park or a recreational area, to open up that fiber supply. Previous to 30 years ago, companies were able to harvest timber from there, but it's stopped, especially in places like Oregon, where literally if a company tries to put a cutting permit, there will be a lawsuit and it will be stopped. Why do you think we have so many fires? I'm not trying to be forest. Trees come down. Trees have a lifespan. In Canada, when you have SPF, spruce pine fir, it's lodgepole pine largely, because that's what we planted in the 50s and the 80s when we replanted after first and second cut harvest. The lifespan is 80 years. So once that tree gets past 80 years, it is not, I mean, it dies. It might get blown down by wind or fire. Like, trees come down. In the US, in the South, specifically southern yellow pine, the rotation is approximately 40 years. So if you don't use it, you lose it. You can't, if a tree is past its life, you cannot make lumber. It has no resin. It doesn't have the moisture content. Don't miss out. Subscribe today to receive all of this incredible data and timely information every week when it comes out. Your competition and colleagues are already subscribing. This is the real information of the relationship between the two countries. Where is the wood? When you say wood, do you mean timber? Do you mean lumber? There's two different things. So in the greater view, for my professional opinion as publisher of Madison's Lumber Reporter, we should be looking at a managed access to the fiber in these recreational areas, underutilized forest, and giving opportunity to the First Nation to provide the timber on their landscape, because it's going to burn in fire. If a tree is made into lumber, it's locked, the carbon is locked into that home for 80 years, 100 years. If a tree burns, that carbon goes into the atmosphere, it doesn't save anything. A growing tree absorbs way more carbon than a mature grown tree. So the cycle of harvest, replant, go through the allocated area so that it's never denuded, it's never a clear cut. The sawmill is running, there's lumber on the market that keeps the price stable, the home builders are able to continue their business, people can buy homes to live in, and everything's great. It's a multi-agency, multi-jurisdictional issue that should be done, used to be done in the past, and can be done. So if you like what you see here, or have taken a moment to look at some of my other videos of the content that I usually do, click like, so this video will get recommended to other viewers. Subscribe here on YouTube so you will be notified when we make another video. And I have some links in the caption to my website to get more information, to see what my company does. Like I said, this company was started in 1952. I'm the third owner. We have a huge knowledge base of data and information for forest industry from then until now and on into the future.